Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the Between Us podcast. It is the first one for our legitimate off season. We were a little bit busy last week, so sorry we couldn't make it happening. But obviously we'll make it up to you with this one and other ones we're gonna have in our off season selection for you. So basically, in this one today, guys, we're talking about free agency and the franchise tags that have been placed, with a couple notable cuts in the last few days of veteran potential Hall of Fame players who have been released from their team, including the likes of Adrian Peterson and Joel Rivas. But anyway, there's a lot of people who've been franchise tags. There's history being made in the franchise tag, and also there's some players who will give you our opinions on what's going to happen with them. Anyway, Will, what's going on?
It's going well. I feel good to be back. Super excited to continue on the slog through the off season that is just pure speculation. And then when something does happen, you speculate whether it's the right thing or not,
Mm.
and you speculate what could happen out of it. Like with the Kirk Cousins thing, that I was quite surprised that he got tagged.
Uh huh.
But they reckon there's still actually a chance that he, like with Josh Norman, that he ends up leaving.
Yeah, it's true. So, apparently, this is the first time that a quarterback has ever been franchise tagged consecutively in 2 years, which is odd because it's like if you've been put under this for like franchise tag, it's basically like go and play another year. We'll see if you're still the same level, and then we can negotiate from there. But with Kirk Cousins, it was like the Redskins aren't too sure. Like I'm not really sure if we start with him. So they put him on their franchise tag, but they haven't. Sorry, the exclusive franchise tag, but they haven't made any offers towards him or anything, which has not been reported back or anything. At least in our extensive people out there working, telling us what's happening in the NFL.
Yeah,
Um, no, there seems to be a little contact between the Reds. Well, I mean, with regards to contract talks, like an extension. I mean, actually, like a year deal, because it's not often that you franchise tag a quarterback and then the next season you do it again. Because once you do, you realize, okay, well, this is our franchise quarterback, so we'll sign him to a deal. So this is a really odd situation here.
yeah. It's a weird situation. I think one thing that the Redskins are trying to work out is whether they invest in what's around Kirk Cousins or they invest in Kirk Cousins.
Mm.
They whether if they invest what's around them, invest in their wide receivers, then they could plug in anyone else,
Uh-huh.
just get like a half decent quarterback, and whether they how much they put value on him. And I actually think Kirk Cousins is quite a good quarterback. I think he showed last season that especially his deep ball was extremely accurate. And I think the Redskins would be stupid to let him go, especially on how difficult it is to find a franchise quarterback that can play at a high level like Kirk Cousins can do. I'm not saying he's like a top 10 quarterback. He's on the better end of the top 20 quarterbacks. Um, and I think
Mm.
he is the kind of quarterback who, if you want to wait to go for the postseason, can be the kind of guy who can take you there.
Well, he's
So
definitely more able to take teams to the postseason than many other quarterbacks out right now. I mean, there's a lot of say if he wasn't franchise tagged, he would have been the best quarterback on the market,
yeah, well,
for
by
sure.
by
Like
far,
by by a, by a fair bit, and like many teams would be happy with Kirk Cousins. And I know there's a lot of talk about maybe trades coming up. I mean, the trade what's it called the trade period. I don't really know, that's coming up soon, so maybe we'll see some moves there, if there's no extension in like contract talks between the Redskins and Kirk Cousins. But for him, there'll be a market out, definitely there's definitely a market for a good one outside Washington for him. But it seems right now that the Redskins just aren't really sure on whether or not they're gonna play with him, because like it's not. I'm looking at the quarterbacks they have, and the ones coming up in the draft, and it's very unlikely that they'll find someone in the draft that is better than Kirk Cousins within the next year or two.
yeah.
So this franchise tag is like definitely bemused me a little bit. I mean, if it was because they already tried contract talks and it didn't really work, then that's fine, I guess.
Mm.
But yeah, I think they should really sign him to a deal. If not,
Yeah, I think
if not, I would be cut. If you're Kirk Cousins, and you've been tagged twice, then you're like, they're clearly not sure about me. Why didn't I go to a team? if this comes available.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely they're gonna have to see the Redskins if they're gonna pay him or the team around him, and either way, it's not really gonna help him that much because either way, he's gonna get money, but then he's gonna lose some receivers, or he's just gonna lose some money.
Yeah, it's. I think that the next move by the Redskins, they're gonna have to be very clever and very cunning over what they do because it has already leaked that Kirk Cousins would be interested in going to San Francisco and hooking up with his old guy Kyle Shanahan.
Hmm.
So they have to be very careful they don't upset him because one upset of the apple cart and Kirk Cousins is out of the building and off to San Francisco.
Yeah, that's what so it's also on the cards right now. So it could really happen if the Redskins don't get a deal here. But yeah, it could be the situation like you said, like with Josh Norman, where they place a franchise tag on him, then a couple weeks later they're like, actually no, you know what, we can do better, and we can find. But I think with a corner, like the difference between a cornerback and a quarterback, that's different. For you need a competent quarterback to carry to play to for your team to actually have a chance of doing anything. And like
Yeah.
in that NFC East division, like it's gonna come a lot. It's on the rise right now. Um, so if the Redskins really don't keep him, then they're basically subjecting themselves to the fall because like even though he could be maybe the best quarterback in that division right now, whoever else the Redskins have and they can get would probably go to number four. And
Mm.
teams with the worst quarterback don't really do that well.
Yeah, definitely. But you mentioned the Panthers there briefly. The Panthers have actually franchise tag K1 Short now,
Yep, yeah.
which hopefully this could be a slightly less tumultuous franchise tag experience for you. Just to let you know, your last two franchise tags were Josh Norman, and before that, Greg Hardy.
No, that's always
Uh,
good.
yeah, so I don't know. This will probably I could see this being a less controversial one. I don't think K1 Shaw is the kind of guy to throw his toys out the pram now. I think he'll probably play under the tag and then maybe you'll sign into a long-term deal next year.
Yeah, so the issue that playing here is that both are starting defensive tackles, K1 Short, at least at the start of last year, K1 Short and Star Luatelli, they were both up for contract. Both up for contract and basically a new deal at the end of the year. So I think it was halfway through this season that signed a new deal with Star. So that was fine. We got that sorted out, and now we can franchise tag and get to we'll put the franchise tag on K1 Short. So we picked up on April the 26th. Wait, that's not happened yet. No, that's last year. My bad. Okay, so we haven't. So that was my bad. That was so that's last year. So we haven't signed Star Lotulli yet onto it, but we still have another option to pick up the year. So I think we might just do that. But with K1 Short, this is really what the Panthers are trying to go for with like keeping the core of that defense, the front seven, which is what we pushed so hard. I think that's why we left Josh Norman last year was because we're very happy with the front seven, and obviously K1 Short is a huge part of that. So we're gonna have to see, if it's a franchise, if it's just a tag this year, or if there's actually some contract negotiations to be made. But I do like this because I mean, obviously with losing Josh Norman last year, we can't really afford to lose that many other players in the team. The performance that we had last year as well wasn't the best. And our defense wasn't that great. It was a down year for many people, and I think K1 Short he had a year that he wasn't too proud about. But I do like this franchise tag, and it was pretty predictable because we kind of needed to. But yeah, I like it, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play next season in the Panthers. Hopefully, this happens rather than us cutting him loose in like 3 weeks. I don't even know when that happened with Josh Norman because it was like one day. It was like 2 days after that they put their franchise tag on him, and then he was gone.
Yeah,
Hit
yeah, it
free
was
agency. But yeah, I like it. Like it goes to our run game. I mean, our run stuff game on defense, and it definitely works for the Panthers, and he's a very good fit for us.
Yeah, I think it's a really good move by you guys. And then onto another team that one of us supports. This is a really tenuous link, but a
Wow.
guy who played for a team that I support, Chandler Jones, has been franchise tagged. Um, Another kind of really predictable move there. I think that the combination of Calais Campbell's and Chandler Jones was really good for the Cardinals last season. And Coach Bruce Arians has spoken out about how he's wanted to keep that together and he wants to build around that for their defense. So no surprises there. And Calais Campbell is a free agent as well this season. And I fully expect them to sign him to a long-term deal. He's a real game changer on the defensive line, and we all know what Chandler Jones can do. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't. I'm not 100% sure whether they would sign Chandler Jones to a long-term deal. I think this tag kind of shows how they feel about him. That they'd want to keep because they want to keep this group of players together for at least one more year, and then if it doesn't work out again, I think they'll blow the whole thing up and start again. So Chandler Jones could be one of those guys that if the Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald train comes to another stop next season,
Hmm.
then I think they could have a big clear out in Arizona.
It could be, yeah, and it's a difficult one in Arizona there because obviously Bruce Arians coming in a couple of seasons ago, and he's like try to do the best to work with what he had right with him right then, and it was very much a team that was built to win now rather than built to win in a couple of years, and it wasn't built to win now and then like sustain. Obviously, with aging quarterback Carson Wentz and their aging wide receiver in Larry Fitzgerald, I think this if they're going to try and make it forward with Chandler Jones, then this is a good idea because that defense we all know in Arizona is a very very solid defense.
Mm.
Obviously, didn't turn up last year that well, but it's still that secondary is still one of the best ones I've seen. And with Chandler Jones like sitting there in front and like the rest of the Arizona Cardinals team, like for instance, Calais Campbell, he's also on he's also on free agency right now from the Cardinals. So maybe they'll be looking to make a deal with him as well. So we're gonna have to see what happens with that situation as well. But I like this move from the Cardinals. No point in trading for him if you weren't gonna like keep him for a few years anyway, which I think is important to remember that. So I like that. Solid pick. And then I would just talk quickly on to one. Like, I mean, it's really obvious this was going to happen. Le'Veon Bell, free agency, franchise tagged by the Steelers. It was going to happen. I don't really think we need to talk much else about it. I mean, I think we all approve of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there's a few rumors going out there that the reason Big Ben was talking about retirement was to pressure the Steelers into keeping Le'Veon Bell so he wouldn't retire.
Uh huh.
But they've kept Le'Veon Bell, they've kept Antonio Brown.
Mm.
I would be very surprised if Ben Roethlisberger doesn't come back now.
Mm. I'll just talk them quickly on that. D'Angelo Williams, the backup running back for the Steelers, he's hitting free agency as well. Interesting to see if the Steelers pick him back up again or if they try and go for a younger one. But um, we'll see.
I mean, there's a lot of depth at running back in the draft this year. I think they could get themselves a good running back in the draft.
There's a lot of teams who are looking for a new running back to be honest in the draft. I mean, and we see him on. There's another free agent right now. Actually, I don't even know if. Well, I actually think he is. With the Green Bay Packers running back Eddie Lacy. I'm pretty sure they might. Yeah, he is a free agent. So obviously the Packers need a run game to try and figure that out because obviously they had what was it Ty Montgomery, their wide receiver in the backfield for the past part of the season. Yeah, they'll be looking for one as well. And Eddie Lacy's still about. I mean, he could still do a job for a team. And I mean, he wasn't that far out of Alabama. I don't think was he a few years ago. Maybe
No.
like 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, it's about 3 or 4 years out. Yeah.
So he's still got time to grow. I think as a player. Quickly go on to the other franchise tags that have been placed. The Los Angeles Chargers. Wow, that's weird to say. Placed the franchise tag on Melvin Ingram, their linebacker for the team. I mean, obviously he is one of the only stars in their defense, and I think they kind of needed this. With Joey Bosa up front, they needed like to be like, look, we're still putting work into this team, because the Chargers right now, their team comp is not that great.
Yeah,
It's
I think
just
as well it's a really good move, seeing as that Philip Rivers is kind of an aging quarterback, and they've got a lot of young stars on defense. With you obviously mentioned Joey Bosa, I think Casey Hayward as well.
yeah, yeah.
And if you kind of sign up Melvin Ingram as well, it allows you to build like a nucleus on that defense that they can build out from. And as I mean, they've got a new marker now. They've got to show that they mean business and sign these key players.
Yeah, exactly. And like, he's one of the players who, although like not that well known, I think Melvin Ingram is is a known player in the league, really.
Hmm.
And obviously, if you're keeping that, if you're keeping players who the fans have heard of, they might be more intrigued to be like, oh look, we signed this guy to a deal, blah blah blah. We'll see, go see what he's about and everything.
Yeah.
Just quickly on the last tag, Jason Pierre-Paul was tagged by the New York Giants, so congrats to him on that. He's going to be making it back into the 2017 season. I can't really see him going anywhere else. Like, I mean, like, even if he hit free agency, like he had to stay with the Giants, really, didn't he?
Yeah, I think also he kind of owes the Giants something that they stuck with him, considering that he didn't have half a hand. Well, he still doesn't have half a hand.
Mm.
And they kind of stuck with him, and they paid him loss. And fair play to him as well that he said he backed himself and on a 1 year contract. Well, he's got another 1 year contract, but he's proven himself that he could. I think he could have easily hit free agency,
Mm.
and got paid. I think that he showed enough last season to for other teams. I mean, and this is the thing that I find with free agency is prices get inflated so much because any player that shows some slight bit of skill will get paid massively in free agency because teams are so desperate out there to get those slightly skilled players. And I think Jason Pierre-Paul would have been one of those guys who would have been overpaid massively because he is slightly talented.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true. All right, I think that's all we have on the franchise tags for this round. Now let's get into the nice juicy bit of free agency, like the guys who are going to hit the market, which is what I really like talking about. I mean, like, obviously it's all speculation, and obviously we're going to get it right. So just believe whatever we say. So I'm just going to flick through or some of the top free agents, and just out there for you right now, who would be your number one free agent?
My number one free agent,
Mm,
I'd say either Dante Hightower or Alshon Jeffrey.
Don Taitoff or Alshon Jeffrey. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. They give it a nice little offensive and defensive side of the ball there.
Yeah.
Um,
I think at the moment I was thinking about this. I think a really good destination for Alshon Jeffrey, I reckon, would be the Tennessee Titans
oh, okay.
because they need like a big. They've got receivers, but they need a big receiver,
Mhm.
tall, strong guy. And I think Alshon Jeffrey would really fit that really well.
I could,
Uh, and they're
I could totally see Alshon Jeffrey heading over to LA to play for one of those teams. I don't think he'll even mind which one. He'll be like, oh well.
I think he'd
Los
take the
Angeles
Chargers
is.
because they've got a quarterback.
I think he possibly would, but I mean, if seen the issue with Philip Rivers, like he was good, he would have to be sold to join the Rams,
Yeah.
by
Or they
the
just
production
give him
of the
loads of money.
quarterback.
There's
Yeah,
always that.
then there's the loads of money which the Rams, I think they do have. So, yeah, I like that though. Going down to Tennessee to hook up with Marcus Mariota, because he's got Delaney Walker there as tight end, but he doesn't really have a identified wide receiver down there, and Alshon Jeffrey could definitely fit that role because, I mean, even with everyone, like all the players who leave Chicago, like all on repeat, like Bennett, Marshall, and Forte, Alshon Jeffrey seems to be another name who's joining that list, and it just seems to be like Chicago is getting worse and worse over these years. I'm not really sure what the general manager is kind of doing
Yeah.
by getting rid of these players. I mean, fair enough if he was bringing through some young ones, but like say, like Kevin White, who's supposed to take the mantle of like best receiver from the 2015 class.
Yeah.
Um,
I haven't seen anything from him.
He's injured for his rookie season, and then I think he was injured a little bit for last season as well, which
Yeah,
is
he
average.
didn't even make 16 games last season.
And so, like, how can you? I mean, throw away Alshon Jeffrey if you don't really have if you
Yeah.
don't really have him. So he is. I think he is right now the second most paid, highest paid cornerback on his previous Chicago Bears contract. So if he's going to hit free agency, he could probably be like, well, you're going to need to pay me more than what I got in Chicago. So he could be pushed up to the number one highest paid wide receiver in the game, despite being like maybe not even in the top 10 of receivers. But that's just the way it's going, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, you hit free agency if you want to be when you hit free agency, you want to hit at a time where you're the only player in your position
You're the
hitting
only
free agency.
good player in your position. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because then your value gets overrated. Like I still think Alshon Jeffrey is a good receiver, but I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of very good, like obviously one guy who's just been signed to a contract, Antonio Brown. I mean, he's miles ahead of Alshon Jeffrey, but I still
Exactly.
think if you put Alshon Jeffrey in the right system, I think he'll be very good. I think he'll be top level.
I'm just I'll be really annoyed because my parents went away to USA this summer. Last summer. I got given they had their friend in Chicago who very kindly gave them a Chicago Bears T-shirt shirt for me, and it was an Alshon Jeffrey one. So now I don't have and
Oh
now I
no.
don't have a I've got a retro back when Alshon Jeffrey was at the Bears shirt. So I'm kind of hoping that the Bears re-sign him a little bit, just for that, so I can keep that. And if the Bears ever play in London, I could totally go watch that and be like, oh my god, I'm a total Bears fan. Even though I definitely wouldn't do that, I'd rock up in my Panthers shirt. But you know,
Yeah,
I could try. I guess.
it could work. It could work.
Yeah, but Alshon Jeffrey definitely the best uh, receiver in. Well, I think potentially I think he's the best player out there in free agency. Not the best player. So the who can give you the most impact, the most impactful player.
Yeah.
On
I think so as well. And I think that he'll definitely hit the open market. I think the Bears have made it fairly clear that they don't want to keep him. I mean, a guy who we're not really sure yet um, whether they want to keep him is the Patriots and Dante Hightower. The way they're going about this is actually similar to how they did it with Devin McCourtney,
Mm.
where they didn't tag him and they kind of let him go out there and test free agency, but then he still ended up signing for the Patriots. I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of same path follows the way that Dante Hightower is going, because I can't really see them letting him go because they traded Jamie Collins, they traded Chandler Jones, and I thought this was all happening so they could re-sign Dante Hightower.
Yeah,
Um,
it seems to be that with the Patriots in this case, it's really shrewd business because it's kind of like we're the best team in football. We won the Super Bowl last year. You can leave us if you want, sure. We're not gonna. You could get you could get more money elsewhere, sure, but we're not gonna pay you that much. We're not gonna
yeah,
pay you like the highest bid, but we'll play you, and you'll be. And obviously, you know, if you're in the Patriots, you know you're going to be challenged. You know you'll probably be in that AFC title game.
hmm.
So that's one
But
game away from the Super Bowl. So you're thinking about that, and you're like, I could be one game away from the Super Bowl. So I mean, like maybe that's what to go through his mind if it's kind of like if he'd rather go. If he's achieved what he's achieved, and he's won a couple Super Bowls with the Patriots, and
he's
he's
won
like,
two Super Bowls.
he's like, yeah, that's cool. If he's like, that's it for me, I can go get money elsewhere, or if he's looking to improve on that, stay with the Patriots however long until Tom Brady leaves, and then make a decision from there, I guess.
I think it depends how much he buys into this Patriot mentality. I mean, there's a reason why Devin McCourtney is a leader on defense and why they were able to do it with him because that guy is like all in Patriots. The way that he plays, the way that he holds himself in the media, that you can tell that he buys in. And if Dante Hightower is the player that they think he is, I think he'll re-sign for the Patriots in some form. But no, I would genuinely, I'd be very saddened if I saw Dante Hightower leave because I think that's a massive loss on defense. I think he has been one of the most underrated players on defense in the last couple of years. I think he made in both the Super Bowls, he made huge plays that have been overshadowed by other plays that were just as important. So I think his biggest overshadowing is in the 2014 Super Bowl when he tackled Marshawn Lynch to get him to the 1 yard line because he would have scored.
Mm.
And he's made so many big plays and he gets overshadowed quite a lot. But yeah,
I
very
think
sad.
definitely over the past few years, obviously it was Chandler Jones and Jamie Collins in that linebacking core, and then also like Dante Hightower was there as well, and then
Yeah,
then Chandler Jones left, and it was Jamie Collins and Dante Hightower. And now it's just Dante Hightower, and I was like, who else? What else are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna revamp your entire very very capable, good linebacking core again?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, but it shows how much was down to Dante Hightower that they kept cutting away at this, but it didn't seem to be like anything was changing.
yeah, it's a weird one. I think it's something which is like the Patriots, which was what they do. So you know, I think that's what it just seems to be the way of their way of negotiating, being like, you can go out and test it. We know what we are. We know the team we
Yeah.
are. We're a Super Bowl contender every year. You could
Yeah.
go to a team and, or I don't know, like even you could think about it. Even the some of the bigger teams in the NFC, you're not going to be a Super Bowl contender because there's just more rotation in the teams and there's more teams top each other. Whereas the Patriots are always there,
Hmm.
and you know, the Patriots or the money, I guess, right now. I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting one. Just a quick, just to go through as well. Adrian Peterson is going into free agency. Now, this doesn't mean that he's not going to play for the Vikings,
Is it
but
they're unwilling to pay the amount of
yeah,
money
yeah.
for next year?
But
So he
like
could restructure his
he
contract.
could yeah, exactly. So he's currently no longer a no, but sorry, yeah, that's open for him. And what I thought was really weird was how the Raiders with Latavius Murray, how he's hitting free agency as well. Maybe if the Raiders, I think the Raiders quite like Latavius Murray, and they're like, well, he can do the gap for them. Like, he's not considered one of the better running backs in the league, but he's a very capable one, and probably like maybe like on the better side of the top 20s. But this Adrian Peterson come into the mix. This can't be good for any running backs who are looking into maybe getting paid, maybe getting signed by the teams. Like Eddie Lacy's there as well. I mean, the teams could always be like, but look, we can go and get Adrian Peterson, and we know Adrian Peterson is Adrian Peterson. He's one of the greatest running backs of all time. But
Hmm.
he isn't that great. He wasn't that great last season. I think he had what was it last year? He had 1.9 yards per carry last year. But in
Yeah.
2015, he led the league in rushing and MVP and all that situation. It's still Adrian Peterson,
Hmm.
and
I
like
think this
obviously
is
with
like
injuries, like he's bounced back from injuries before as well. So
it's going to be
interesting
a
to see what's
tough one for
happening.
teams because the upside on Adrian Peterson is almost unlimited. That
Yeah.
you could sign it and it could be 2012 Adrian Peterson and he could
Mm.
carry a team on his back to a championship game, or it could be last season Adrian Peterson where he's
Yeah.
injured in the second game of the year and he's out for the whole season,
Mm.
or I mean, remember he did get suspended for an entire season.
True.
So there's so many like you could have everything or you could have nothing with this.
Yeah.
That's what makes it an awesome signing.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I think is really cool. Like, if you're looking for a running back, you're looking to make I think this is like because remember Adrian Peterson said at the start of somewhere through the 2016 season that he could play until he was 40. That he could run until he was 40, and I was thinking to myself, you're a running back. That's definitely not a thing.
but
But
then
if
we've
anyone
been
could
saying
do
this
it,
about Tom
it
Brady for ages that Tom Brady's gonna like great players find a way.
exactly. And if anyone can do like Peterson could do it. I mean, he could say, well, maybe it wasn't 40, maybe it was on like 35 or something. He's only 31 right now, so he'll be 32 at the start of the new season. Um,
Do you know what will be an interesting move for Adrian Peterson? That just kind of popped into my head.
Go on.
Why doesn't he go to the Detroit Lions? Like they've
Oh,
needed a
no
running back
way.
for
No, he would
forever.
not go to the Detroit Lions. I don't
Would
know.
like is he? Oh, it
I'm
would be.
thinking maybe Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean we could see what like a
I,
Brett Favre, but the other way.
exactly. Like I think Green Bay fans would absolutely love it if that happened. It would be
Yeah,
hilarious, and the Viking fans would hate him so much.
but then I think I mean both of those things would be great, but then I think he doesn't hold that. I don't think he holds that much resentment to the Vikings.
Mm, yeah.
I think he does owe the Vikings something because they stuck by him during that
They
suspension.
they stuck by him, and then through the injuries as well.
Yeah.
But you
Um,
know, if the Vikings aren't willing to sign him, I mean, like the the Packers and the Lions, obviously making the playoffs or making the push for the playoffs last year. Um, but yeah, he could definitely add that extra bit to a team. But the whole thing with Adrian Peterson is, I saw which was something which like his longest run of 2016, and why teams would be so like afraid of getting him. Um, so his
Yeah, he was
longest run
also
last year
injured for the whole
was
season.
his longest run last year was a 13-yard run against the Detroit Lions, and at the end of the play he fumbled. So you know,
Yeah, but
it's understandable why people don't really want to get him.
he was injured for most of last year,
Hmm.
and plus he was running behind a terrible offensive
Yeah,
line.
and he didn't have Teddy Bridgewater with him as well, to be fair.
Yeah,
But
if
you
he
know,
had the whole season,
that never
plus
stopped him before.
yeah, like I think that's I mean that's I mean it's a criticism, and I think you should take it into account. But I think it's hard to take that into account because I think you have to look at what I always like to look at what a player could be, and I think that I mean yes, players make mistake. That mistake has just been
Mm.
exposed now because he only had limited amount of snaps last
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
So you're obviously going
Mm.
to look at but I mean look at what he I mean last season he was a lead rusher in the NFL and he
Yeah,
did it at like a canter. I felt.
yeah. It seemed to be easy for him when he gets going. But it's gonna be weird seeing him in anything other than like Viking
Yeah.
purple.
Yeah, it will be weird. I mean he has. I mean he's the teams that I mean I think he tweeted it saying that the teams that he personally would like to go to would either be New York or Tampa Bay.
Mm.
Um, I could see him maybe in New York, which but I don't know that
Tampa Bay I couldn't really see because obviously Doug Martin's just there.
yeah.
So
I would quite like to see him. But it would actually pay me to see him for the Giants just as a Patriots fan.
yeah,
It would upset me,
love it.
but it
Oh.
could be a good fit for him.
All right. Are there any other like big people you want to talk about right now for free agency? I mean,
There's obviously guys like Deshaun Jackson from the Redskins.
mm,
I think if Alshon Jeffrey does end up leaving the Bears, I think Deshaun Jackson will go the way of Chicago.
okay, interesting. Well, they would pay him instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few wide receivers out right now. Probably the best one, other than obviously Alshon Jeffrey, and maybe Deshaun Jackson is Terrell Pryor, ex quarterback. So he's about, and he'll be
I think
well, like
The Browns should keep him.
yeah, they should definitely keep him because he like beat some good wide receivers. I mean, quarterbacks last year.
I think he also I think they only slightly tapped into his skill set last year because he was injured and it was a bad Browns team, but he was still playing really, really well. And I
It's always
think,
a bad Browns team.
yeah, it was an especially bad Browns team last. But like, I think if they, I mean, having him at quarterback or wide receiver, and then they had was it Coleman? Coleman?
Yeah, Corey Coleman. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy that they drafted in the first
Mm.
round. I mean, if they can get them both on the field together, plus a half decent quarterback, I mean, you're starting to have
Gary
something
Barnage
that
is there as
looks
well.
a bit like an offense.
With Gary Barnage doing well.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, another free agent I want to talk about, just because it's another Redskins player and it's wide receiver, is Pierre Garçon. So obviously the Redskins featuring three times here in this episode with Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, and Kirk Cousins. So this is basically the crux of what we were saying earlier, being who are they going to pay, their wide receivers or their main man. Or their main man Kirk Cousins. We'll see. I think for Deshaun Jackson, if he leaves, going back to Philly, I think that's definitely an option for him.
Yeah.
Like he was loved over there. He made some great plays for the Eagles, and I don't know. I always think it looks weird seeing him not in a Eagles jersey, but no, I suppose I'll get used to it even if he changes teams again. But I still see him as like second year. Also, I just want to say some potential Hall of Fame players like Jamal Charles. If you see him in that category, he's also he's a free agency. He's in free agency. DeMarcus Ware will be, but he'll probably be remaining with the Broncos. See, James Harrison is his contract's coming up, but like the Pittsburgh Steelers will probably sign him to like another year. They'll just they'll just keep signing him over and over again. And then who was it? Well, there was Dwight Freeney. He's always about. He's gonna be.
Yeah.
He'll be about until he'll get signed up by some team who making a push for the playoffs in the later season, and
He'll
that'll
be
happen.
about until he beats Tom Brady.
Yeah, true. I'm trying to think of anyone else is. I think Julius Peppers is on free agency as well, or was that wrong? Let me see. He is, yeah, he is on free agency. So, you know, he's still about. So there's a lot of players who can be picked up to help out teams here. Obviously a lot of aging veterans, which is what free agency is every year. Um, but no other young stars that really stand out for me. I'd be very surprised if say, oh, I don't know, say like players in under free agency don't for players in free agency who don't get signed to back to their teams. I'd be surprised if Alshon Jeffrey um, doesn't make it back to Chicago simply because Chicago need him.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think there's anything else I really want to say on free agency for this week.
Yeah, same thing as well. I think it'll be quite an exciting few weeks ahead in terms of player movement.
And it's Combine week coming up as well, so
Oh yes,
we're
come
gonna have to
on.
see the best of that. I think, guys, we'll give you our thoughts on the Combine next week. Maybe who stood out and who was. You know how we had that Teddy Bridgewater case a couple years ago where he was awful at Combine.
Small hands as well.
Yeah, so there we go. We're gonna have to see all the predictions being made by all the NFL teams, and then the players who become stars in a couple years will turn up onto I can't remember which American show it is, but like someone read out their negative draft report from people, like people like JJ Watt are doing it, and it's like, oh, the scout missed up on that one. But anyway,
Yeah.
guys, we will catch you next week. See ya.